I'm going to ask one person in the room to join me at the podium. He's already here, Dr. Mehmet Oz. Among this group, as you know, some of you know that he is a medical professional, accomplished heart surgeon. He's vice chair and professor of surgery at Columbia. But he's also known, as we all know, to millions of people around the country as Dr. Oz, three-time Emmy Award-winning daytime television program, The Dr. Oz Show. And this pains me as a writer of books that can't get beyond 500 copy sales. He's been a 7-time New York Times bestseller writer, 7 books on health and well-being that have all been fantastic bestsellers. Now, due to his production schedule, he won't be able to be with us tomorrow, so we're going to have him say a few words tonight. And then after that, it'll be back to conversing. The bar will remain open, and we'll meet again tomorrow morning and begin the conversations again, both formally and informally. So with that, Dr. Oz will say a few words, and then back to business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have my first slide, please? No, I would not. I would not do that to you. Would not do that to you. I do want to thank Steve and Forbes organization for allowing us to host a ShareCare board meeting today. That's one of the reasons I was here today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing outside the television show, and ShareCare is a big part of that. It's an entity that I was proud to start with Oprah Winfrey, who I'll talk about in a second, Jeff Arnold, who started WebMD, How Stuff Works, and a bunch of other great companies over there hiding somewhere with Don Whaley and Justin and the rest of the team. There he is. And Discovery, Communications Discovery Channel. And we knew that when we started the show, we had to have some platform to talk to folks that was off air, because the one thing about health information is you don't want folks to die of a misprint. And so we recognized that there would be a voracious appetite for content if we crafted it the right way. But part of this adventure started in part because as I began to do heart surgery on younger and younger people, in fact, one sentinel case of a 25-year-old Latino woman who I did a coronary bypass operation on, which you don't think you'll be doing when you train for heart surgery, which is my specialty. And then when I went to see how she was doing the day after the procedure, she was celebrating with her family, 2 young kids, her husband. He'd brought her a Big Mac, fries, and a Coke to celebrate. And they were all happily imbibing the soft drink and enjoying the snack food, and without recognizing that the reason she had come to surgery was because she was a diabetic at that young age. So I had the epiphany that the reason America wasn't getting the message is we were not giving them the message within medicine. And there are many physicians here. I ran into your son-in-law and others from the Rothman Institute in Philadelphia, which is where I come from, by the way, Philadelphia. And I can tell you from the medical field, it's an away game for us right now. And I began to realize in crafting content that was designed to teach people about their bodies in an uplifting, joyful way. And my wife was the executive producer for those programs, and she's here somewhere in the back probably having a beer. But you know, I recognized, and I wasn't alone in this, that if we could start to take the message in a different location and take it to people where they live, which was the biggest message, the biggest lesson I ever got from Oprah, was to recognize that although you're a host of a program, you're actually going into people's homes, and you're a guest in their house. And you have an opportunity to touch them in areas they never have had interaction before. And that became the passion for what we were going to do. Because if you think about it, people don't change what they do based on what they know. They change based on how they feel. If you can get them to feel differently about where they play a role, if you can get them to realize that they can control what's happening inside their body, they can change the world outside of it. If you can meet them where they're trying to get help and offer them a hand up to lift them to where they could be and celebrate the lives they're trying to achieve something in, they can begin to change with you. And that became the brand for our show. To give you news that you could use, that could transform you. And trust was the currency. It was always the currency for Oprah. And at the end of the day, that's really what we try to trade on. So we began to think about this patient-doctor interaction. Now think about this. 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, all of our ancestors lived in little itty-bitty villages where we always had a political leader, a military person or enforcer, and then there was a healer. And the healer wasn't in there doing operations, healing you with steel, giving you pills, chemotherapy. The healer was there to give you a safe place to have a conversation. That became ultimately our goal on the program. How do you allow that safe enclave to have conversations? And I'm going to go through some examples on this, but I can tell you, what we try to do on the show is have that open conversation and then let people go to the web, to ShareCare, in order to allow them to take it to a new place. That's why we have the #1 engagement of any health website in the world, because we have so much video content, because I know people respond to that when they see that and they hear words. I know that if we can build the bridge between where patients live and where doctors are, which is going to happen fundamentally through social media. Imagine Facebook with a purpose. That's the kind of businesses we should be looking at and crafting. I mean, that's what you have to have. Because you have mechanisms to talk to your friends, but how about talking to people who are important in your life who might save your life? We have to build that, and doctors don't know how to do it, but they know what it looks like, and they can taste it. If you can build it for them, they'll come to it. So we began looking at these different models. And when you look at doctors behaving like healers on television, which we're seeing more and more of, you now begin to challenge the status quo. Which is why, at the end of the day, this conference, what you're about to talk about tomorrow, these media businesses, the web businesses that I'm seeing and hearing, that's how we're going to transform health in this country. So I've been involved just in the last 24 hours with 3 shows. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but I'll give you tips about why each of them might work for us. The first was a show I taped this morning. And we talked about new innovations, some of the biggest hospitals in the country, what are they doing differently? And one interesting case comes to the issue of urge incontinence, which most of you never think about, but if you're a woman, you know about. Which means, without wanting to, stuff comes out from down below. Now, this is a male-centric audience, but I can tell you for a female audience, it's shameful, it's awkward, you don't want to have that problem. There are treatments that work, but you got to go find them, because medicine's not offering them to you in a way that's accessible to you. So when you give the bully pulpit to someone who can deliver that message in a meaningful way, change happens. Second example, we're doing a big show tomorrow on real age. How many of you have taken the real age test? Put your hands up. Okay. The real age test is the best barometer for how old your body thinks you are. So if you think about how to keep score in life, you can keep score by how long you live. Hard to do that. By the time you know, it's a little late. You can keep score, right, in many other ways. But if you know what your real age is, how old your body thinks you are, as opposed to how old your driver's license says you are, you can begin to change that number. That all of a sudden becomes very empowering to you, because I can treat you like an adult. I can see if you eat red meat more than 3 times a week, you lose a couple months of life. If you smoke cigarettes or have high blood pressure, the #1 cause of aging is blood pressure, you lose 10 years of life. Now you decide. Cheat on the meat, check your blood pressure. Those kinds of decisions adults can deal with. And the final example was someone I had on this afternoon, Randy Jackson. You may know him from American Idol. Randy Jackson, in the middle of that show, as when it was first launching, had bariatric surgery. And we had a very open, soulful conversation about why he had that. Now here he is shrinking in size. And for anyone who knows Simon Cowell, it made him jealous to see someone getting skinny like that. And so, you start to have conversations that are more in the public sphere about operations that historically were always sort of taboo to talk about. Things like bariatric surgery were a sign that you couldn't do it on your own. So now you start to tackle these ailments that we have historically thought of as your emotional issues, beginning to realize more that oftentimes we can help those with more invasive approaches. But how do you get that to come together? And that's where I'm going to leave you all. That's where I think the future lies for us. I think we're working into a place where we can meet patients where they are with new platforms. I think we have technologies now. I'll give you an example. If you can measure blood sugar transcutaneously, all of a sudden you have an ability not just to help people figure out if they're borderline diabetic, which 1 in 3 of us are, but you might be able to help them figure out, are you really hungry? Or is that something else driving you to eat? I think we're going to have tech married to emotion. So we'll have the ability to influence people when they're about to make an emotional decision, because few people make decisions when they're really cool and calm and collected, especially when they make bad decisions. They're usually emotional about them. We have ways of nudging that. I think the car should become an examination room. Think about this. We spend tons of time in our cars. You can weigh someone, take their stress level. You can figure out their blood pressure easily. You can do heart rate variability on the steering wheel. You can respond in stressful situations and gauge that. It's a perfect stress test. All that becomes something that we've sort of left to the side. I see that coming to us in the future. In fact, I don't think you're going to be able to go to any kind of public event or gathering place or a mall without having some type of a kiosk that can rapidly audit how your health is going within the next 5 to 10 years. I know they're already out there, but someone's going to take that and scale it to a very big place, because we have all those technologies, from reading your eyes to checking how your toes are doing. And finally, I think we have the opportunity to get involved in venues like we're doing the next month in Dallas, where we're taking over Cowboy Stadium, and with the military doing one of these huge 15-minute screening tests that we do. But we give in 5 minutes 5 key numbers you have to know about, which you should all know, by the way: your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your blood cholesterol, plus your weight and your waist. And then once you get that information in 5 minutes, spend 10 minutes explaining how you change it. Because the big message is, all of this can take you to a new level. Which leads me to my final note about a wonderful woman that I was taking care of at the hospital a few years back. And this woman, we have a big integrative medicine center. We offer integrative medicine because integrative medicine is a great way to empower people. And who knows, if it works for 1.5 billion people in Asia, it might work for you in your hospital bed. So this woman took every complementary medicine therapy we had. She took the hypnosis, the massage, the meditation, the audio tapes, Reiki, everything. And as she was walking out the door, she was approached by one member of the team because there's some fees associated with these. And they said, well, this woman's a school teacher, older woman. And she looked at him and she said, yes. And she says, well, you had these therapies, there's a certain bill. And she looked at him and says, well, I don't understand. Dr. Oz said it was complimentary. So choose your words carefully because they are weapons, but you are the future and I'm proud to be here. Steve, thanks for the room.